there's a good possibility of that. I don't want to put
No,
myself
fair enough.
down,
Well, you
definitely,
you
but
work in AI, so you know more about this than me. So you reckon by 2029 that Ray Kurzweil is a futurist for everyone that doesn't know who that is, who believes the singularity is coming, which is when AI becomes super intelligent and we have a super intelligent machine amongst us that it's called a singularity because we don't know what the world will look like after this point because there'll be it's like having I don't know, like someone who's 10,000 times smarter than Einstein who can work for us. So that's kind of crazy. So we don't really know. And of course, there's dangers associated with that. So AI is very interesting. I'm reading Stuart Russell's book on it at the moment, Human Compatible. Yeah, his latest book. And the most reserved AI researchers think it's 70 years away, the most
yeah.
conservative, while the most kind of optimistic believe it's a couple of years, 3, 5 years. So these are the experts work in the field that kind of estimate between 5 and
It's all
70
over.
years. Yeah. And some of the younger voices, you're definitely going to live through this. That's what it's that's what it seems like. If you're only in your teens, you're probably going to live to your 80s with life expectancy going up. So yeah, you're almost definitely going to live through it. So who knows if it happens soon? I don't know, Timothy. I'm intrigued. I personally think it is going to happen in the next 20 years because I just the rate of improvement in technology is just immense. It's just crazy when you think that no one even used, like smartphones have just become everyone uses them all the time now. Like literally everyone's plugged in. You walk down the street and it wasn't 12 years ago the iPhone 1 came out. 12 years, that's 12 years and now everyone can't live without it. I mean it's a mad world we're in with mad technology. So I'm going to take another question. Is that okay, Timothy? Thanks a lot for
Yeah.
that. That was a great question. Yeah. Um, Pantsy Fans, great name. I'll try and select you. Oh, it's not letting me. What's going on? Let me select you over here. Okay, yeah, you're
All
on
right.
loudspeaker now. Oh,
Sweet. Okay. Can you guys hear me, I
sweet.
guess? Can
Yeah,
you hear
yeah,
me?
yeah. We can hear you. Yeah, it's
Okay,
good.
cool. So this thought isn't well organized, so forgive me, but uh this whole conversation about like is consciousness uh, is it something that we can simulate? I think I like to
Yeah,
think about things on a lower level, like the building blocks, instead of like our mind or the neurons in our mind, what those things are made of. And there's a physicist named Lawrence Krauss. Have you heard of him?
yeah. I know Laura.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know him personally, but
Okay.
yeah.
So he talks about this experiment that's been done at CERN, in 2017, or they discovered or they found proof of the Higgs boson. And what the Higgs boson is, it's a part of the pieces that make up things like electrons and atoms, like the things that all matter is made of. And now, so my
Yeah,
question is, so they found this proof of this actual thing that is part of everything. It goes through everything. Um, what they what what he says is, so this world is this whole universe is a superconductor, and it's so cold, and so superconductors, when when the temperature drops low enough, uh, they found that they can pass an electron through it, and it will go forever because the resistance goes away.
the resistance is
So,
zero. Yeah.
and so that's what a superconductor is. And so,
Mm-hmm.
what the discovery of the Higgs boson proved that this universe is a superconductor. So it's acting on the physics of the nature of the world that we're in. So my question here is, if we're able to go to CERN and we have to actually put actual energy in and use actual magnetism and actual physics to do these tests, how is that really going to be simulated? Are the chances of this being a simulation? I think they go down because that energy is
Mm.
real. Like did they simulate the need for energy to do what it does? And anyways, so
Mm-hmm.
the superconductor, what it does is it curves magnetism, and this is the reason why atoms have shape and why electrons have shape, is because of this curvature of the magnetism that pushes the world and curves it around itself, which makes matter. So these are actual physical things that we can test, and they've proven. And so, how do you explain the ability to test actual physical things that need actual energy?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good question, but how do I explain it? I mean, in
Yeah,
games, in games,
yeah.
you know, when you have a what am I thinking of? Say, like Batman VR, great game. I'll mention a VR game. Like when you use the scanner and you scan things and you pick up data from that world, that's obviously not real data. That is just simulated data. So I get what you're saying. I'm
See?
just to be
Like,
clear.
hmm.
It's very difficult to say whether or not we definitely live in a
Right,
simulation,
right.
but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure the answer to that one, I'm afraid. But I would
Yeah,
say
it's
you
I
can.
think my gut reaction is to say that so much of physics is theoretical, and so much of the kind of physics you're talking about is, while there are tests being done and things being observed, it's still very much guesswork to an
well, it's
extent,
not.
and
Well, not
not
anymore.
necessarily. Well, yeah, fair enough. Things
Well,
are being
yeah.
observed for sure, but how tangible is it? And therefore, like
Well,
David said, could it be simulated kind of data
so
potentially?
that's
Yeah.
that's the thing though, is if it is simulated data, so all 7 billion of us on this planet, are we all in the same simulation? And the
Well,
people who
yeah,
are at certain right now doing those tests, are they standing around a room together, all being
Mm.
duped on this?
manipulated.
It's, to me,
Maybe
it's
they
like,
are, or
like
maybe
Occam's,
who
yeah.
knows? Maybe there's only a few simulated people, and Lawrence Krauss isn't one of them. He's one of the bots sent in to convince us that this is real. So,
Yeah, maybe
I
everybody
don't.
except for those in this room are just bots, and we just get fed the simulated information from them.
Yeah,
And maybe I'm a
I don't
robot
think.
and I'm making all this up.
Oh, you're just trying to convince us through. Renee, I'm going to get to you next because you've been patiently waiting, and then I think we should hear
All
a
right, thank you.
female voice. Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
Thank you very much for
and
the question.
by the
Oh,
way,
thank
this
goodness.
is very
Ugh.
amazing. This is my second day in this thing, and this is really cool what you're doing here. So I'm really glad to be a part of this. So
Oh,
thanks.
thank you.
Oh yeah,
Welcome.
thanks, man. Cheers. Renee, sorry, you're on now.
Oh, thank you,
yeah.
thank you.
There you go. Hello, how you
I'm
doing?
waiting so patiently. Okay, so my question is this. I actually was in on something called The Gathering, which is one of the people from Evolve VR. They did a whole thing for multi-faith or non-faith kind of thing. And one of the questions one of the things that came up during this was what you pretty much, what your belief was, whether it be you had no belief in God or a belief in God or this or that. And one of the things that came up is, I think it's considered an Eastern philosophy, that we are all part of a simulation. Okay. And now I'm an atheist, so I was in that one little corner, but I spoke with somebody who really, he's here too, but believes this, that we're all part of a simulation. And my question and this has like actually been bugging me for 2 weeks now until this happened, which is pretty fortuitous. If this was true, if we are all part of a simulation, how does it work in as far as when you go to sleep, or if you have to have an operation and you're put to sleep? Okay.
You mean when your consciousness is switched off, kind of thing? Yeah.
Yes. So how does that all work? Because that is a terrifying thought for me. And as far as, we're all part of a simulation, going to sleep or being unconscious, that is a very terrifying thought. And as far as that philosophy, do you guys have any thoughts on this or comments?
Wow. Well, we could have our brains fully simulated, so our brains will still exist and we'll just not be conscious, or perhaps we do just kind of disappear for a little period, and come back.
And that's terrifying.
That is quite scary, yeah.
That is really terrifying.
Do you I'm not, yeah, well, I think you've
that
terrified.
Sounds like a very...
If Wolfie Plays VR, I think maybe has something to say on this. Do you want? Oh no, maybe not.
No, I actually recently listened to a talk with, I don't know if you've heard of Professor Brian Cox. He's a British professor at the University of Manchester, and he was heavily involved in the in CERN. Excellent, people know him. And he was talking recently about the simulation kind of question, and how for atheists, the concept of living in a simulation can actually kind of play the role that religion does for other people, in terms of there being this sense of a higher being, I guess, would be the simulators, rather than a god or a creator. And that actually it may kind of pick up traction as a kind of, with atheists, as a kind of a new philosophy and a new kind
That's what I
way
was
of kind of
thinking
viewing the
too.
world. And
But so the
so
whole thought of being unconscious, that's
yeah.
kind of terrifying in the whole concept of this. And
It-
so that's seriously been playing on my mind for 2 weeks now. So
But it's an interesting point in general, Renee, where people are very comfortable going to sleep at night, and that is switching off your consciousness. Yeah, no one.
Yeah.
We all do it every day, and it's something that you are literally switching off your brain at that point. So it's I hope everyone's going to be too scared to go to sleep now. So
welcome to my
sorry
nightmare,
about
everybody.
welcome to Renee's
Thank you.
nightmares. Blame her. Don't blame us for that. Blame her. Okay, next up we've
Thank you for
got
that. Thank you very much.
Alex BZ. Let's put you on loudspeaker. And it's gone 10. We were gonna stop at 10, but let's just keep going until batteries die or people run out of questions. So Alex BZ, you're on loudspeaker if you want to come to the front. I don't know. So many people.
I like boobies.
Hello? You make movies, is that?
I'm not sure what was said then.
No.
No.
No? Should we get someone else?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get someone else. Alex BZ, you lost your chance. Or do you want to come to the front? You're back on, Alex, if you're there.
I like boobies.
Oh, I see. I see. It was a rude comment. Now I understand what it was. Sorry about
Now
that.
I get it.
I didn't hear it the first time, but I heard it the second time. And okay, Coolpy, where are you? You want to come forward? There you go. Hopefully you'll have something more insane to say. Go on, you're on loudspeaker.
Alrighty. To answer this lady's question, she said she's not conscious in the simulation. Where is she at? I think it's basically you're still here. You're just not receiving or sending information on a certain level. You're sending it subconsciously, but not consciously. So that's about receiving and transmission. Transmitting and receiving information, and everything is information. But the name of the show is Do We Live in a Simulation? I think I can prove it.
Yeah?
What's your name?
Go for it.
Yes,
David.
I believe
David,
I can.
Yes.
David.
Go on, David.
Okay.
Go on.
David, I'm going to ask you a simple question. What is a box? What is a box?
What is a box?
Yeah.
It's a container. It's a container for items.
Okay. And what's a container for items?
Yeah, it's self-referential, isn't it? I mean, it's a box or
right. The point I'm trying to make is that we don't know for a T what anything is, but yet we can deal with it. I don't know what the number 1, 2, or 3 is, yet I can add 1 and 2 and make 3. We can deal with information without really knowing what the information is. Because of that, we can't live in what is real. Because if it was real, number one, it could never differ. You see what I'm saying? And number two, if it was actually real, we could describe it to an absolute T. But because we can't, we know there has to be some form of it that isn't real, but yet real enough for us to handle. That fits in perfectly with a simulation. It isn't real, but yet it is a reality. It is real in some type of way. So, and then to answer what this one guy said, I think he said, he was talking about how spheres are, how these atoms and things have shape and they have spheres and they're pulled together by magnetism. If you take a straight line and you draw it out as far as it can go into infinity, it must come back around to the point in which it started. The most efficient way, really the only way that phenomenon can occur is by a circle. Now, a sphere is nothing more than 2D circles, an infinite, uncountable amount of them put together. That makes a sphere because calculus says that if the area of a sphere is what happens when you add up all of the infinite circles that make that sphere, and you add those up, you get the area of the sphere. Golly, I think I was trying to answer another question. I think
Wait, can you answer
Landon.
my question? Can you? Sorry,
Yes.
sorry, I got a quick one.
Yes.
Where
Yes.
where are you from? Where are you from?
I'm
I
from
love your
Knoxville,
accent.
Tennessee. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh wow, what an accent! Sorry, I absolutely love it. It was I'm definitely it's so what a lovely accent. Go on,
Thank
go
you.
on. You were going to say one thing about Landon. You were just about to say you or something else.
Yeah, the real young kid, he was saying, if I take the how do we know that when we see the white light, we're coming out of the simulation?
Oh yeah, wow.
That is true. You are. It goes into what the one guy was saying about the dimensions, how you see, how we exist. We came from the first, we see in the second, we interact with the third, and our mind is in the fourth. When you open, I believe when you die, you are going into the fifth. I believe that there's an uncountable amount of dimensions, and you stretch through all of them. Going to what she says about the atheists and how this simulation thing can help them have a deity of some type. Basically, it makes them comfortable because they're able to see that really you kind of are that higher power. That's your higher self. So I believe we do live in a simulation. It is a simulation of what reality would be if reality was actually here. Now, scientists say that most of the universe is empty space, and it's really true. Most sources say that something came from nothing. That all of this came from really nothing. So if all of this came from nothing, nothing must still be here. This is the dynamics of how nothing works. It works according to how you think it works because it's not actually here, but it is here in a sense. It's kind of a paradox, a quagmire, but it is one that is actually stable in the way that it is. Reality is strange. It's very funny.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay,
if you believe that we do live in a simulation, then has that realization changed how you live or how you behave at all?
Basically, it doesn't. And the reason why is because we're organic machines. So we can't really prove that we're even conscious. And the reason why is that your consciousness is almost the sum of all your parts. And you see what I'm saying? And the sum of all your parts is kind of infinite. It's infinite. So infinity is the same thing as nothing. So really, you don't have a consciousness. You are just a machine, and it works perfectly like that. You're so complex that you're able to conceive of what a consciousness is, but you really don't have one. You're just really, your programming and who you are is so complicated that this is all interplay. This is all, it seems like to be all interplay. So, you hear people saying, I have the confidence to do this, and I was able to do it because I believed in it. Well, it's like, believe you can jump off a cliff and live. It's like, no, it's probably not going to happen. Believe you can jump off a building and fly. It's not going to happen. So it says that even though you live in the simulation and you know the rules of the simulation and the fact that it does work off of what you believe, it still doesn't allow you to cheat it in any way. You still have to be in the simulation. So you're saying, I'm basically saying that if the simulation, if you knowing you were in the simulation could change something about you, then it means you're actually smart enough to be outside of the simulation. And if existence in the cosmos as we know it is the simulation, you can't jump outside of it. So no matter how much knowledge you have about the galaxy, it still will restrict you to a certain degree. And we feel this every day. You'll go to work and be like, yeah, I got a great job, but then that job turns out to be just as crappy as the one you had before. Or things like that. It seems that you see what I'm saying? So no matter how much you learn about the simulation, it just won't let you jump outside of it, because asking those questions is a part of the simulation itself.
I think
wondering about the simulation is part of the simulation.
I think wondering about the simulation is part of the simulation. I agree with that. I do think I'm conscious, though. I'm gonna debate you on that. I think I am conscious, and the fact that you think you're not
therefore I am.
It makes me think that you're maybe a bot. So, you're one of the non-playing characters in my simulation. But I don't think it's just mine. I think there's other real people here. But yeah, maybe you're just a bot. So maybe that's just
We'll
you.
never know.
We won't know until later.
Hey, that's part of the fascination.
That is part of it. Thanks a lot
Thank
for
you.
that. I
Thank
love
you.
the accent. I loved hearing what you had to say. So next up, we've got guest